The Cuyahoga County Finance and Budgeting Committee meeting for Monday, April 29th is called to order, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Calling the roll, Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schrein.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Ms. Baker. We have a quorum.
Wow, this is excellent. Perfect attendance. That's great. And do we have anybody signed in for public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
And the minutes for April 2nd are in your packet. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the meeting of April 2nd, 2019. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, and the motion is approved for the minutes. And we have one matter legislative referred to committee. It's Resolution 2019-0012.
Resolution number 2019-0112, amending the 2018-2019 Capital Improvements Program for 2019 by updating both the projects to be completed and estimated cost of each project.
Director.
It's not turning on. Oh, good afternoon. Maggie Keenan, Office of Budget Management. We submit the capital improvement plan as part of the budget process. Cuyahoga County's been doing 5-year CIPs for as long as I've been here. In the last couple of years, we've tightened it up a bit in that we are bringing the CIP back to council for approval when there are changes to either the projects, the estimates for the projects, or the total dollar amount. So I can answer perhaps some pretty general questions. Otherwise, I'm going to defer to the Department of Public Works, who manages the plans.
Okay. Let's hear from Public Works.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Michael Dever with Department of Public Works. Yes, I brought along with me the two primary administrators of the capital plan. First, Matt Reimer, who's responsible for the facilities portion of the capital plan, and then Dave Marquard's along with us also, who covers road, bridge, and sanitary portion of the capital plan. So if there's any specific questions of the adjustments that were made on this update, the subject matter experts are here to answer them. Okay?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. Speaking towards the Facilities Master Plan, just wanted to give you an introductory statement to what you see in your package there for the updates for 2019. We had a as Director Keenan said, 2018-2019 capital plan as part of the budget resolution.
Hold on just a minute. We don't seem to have the packet here. All we have is the legislation.
I'll see if I can get some copies.
Okay, thank you.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. Councilwoman, I personally do not. I apologize. I saw a PDF go along with the resolution. I made an assumption that that was
I like slides.
okay.
We might have we had a lifeline come.
So it's in,
Lifeline with the slides coming to you, right?
and we have it in our council agenda packet from April 23rd.
Thank you.
So if you have it on in front of you, page 166.
And Mr. Chair, I can print out a couple of the packets for the rest of the committee if they don't have their full agenda packet.
Okay. I think we need 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. To do what I was going to do at the end of the meeting, which is just to remind the committee of a couple very important meetings that are coming up, and the first one is in 2 weeks, which is on a regularly scheduled Monday time, but it is the Monday before the council meeting, which is a little bit unusual, and that is on May the 13th at 1 o'clock. And at that time, we're going to review the first quarter report from Budget and Management. It's always an important time because it provides us actual performance data in addition to forward-looking estimates, and so this is going to be an important indication of how we're doing.
So since we have a little time, then I'll just add to that a little bit. That's fine if you want to talk about that in 2 weeks. We probably will not have the report distributed until the end of the week, maybe early next week, depending on how quickly I can get the executive to review it. We haven't submitted it yet to him for review. We're still ahead of schedule, but we're a little behind where normally I would like to be, just because we're working without a budget and reporting system, so we're doing this by hand. I do want to make council aware, I've discussed this before, but first quarter, what you're going to be getting is an update on the major funds. So the general fund and the Health and Human Services levy fund. We did not prepare schedules on an all funds basis. I can answer any question you have about the county's $2 billion budget, but we're not preparing the schedules, just it's very labor intensive for us without the system. And then also we're going to be preparing 2 sets of schedules for you. One is in our existing chart of accounts, or the former chart of accounts, and then one will be with the new chart of accounts. And there are some changes specifically related to the general fund. So we'll have side-by-side comparisons for you, and I'll walk you through not only in my presentation, but in the document that we submit, so you know how to read them differently, but you are going to get 2 this time.
And so you're saying we should have documents to review sometime early next week, which
At the latest.
yeah. So that's still going to be a week before the meeting.
is.
That'll be fine, and so this will be a very important review, and our primary focus is going to be on the general fund and the HHS levy fund. So if we don't have too much on the all funds, that would not be a major concern. The other thing is that a week later, on Monday, May the 20th, we'll have our next update from the administration on the ERP project, followed the following Thursday by the follow-on report from our consultants at Bursens. So those are the things we have coming up next month in Finance and Budget Committee. So one additional question I would ask is how do you decide when enough changes have occurred in the capital improvements plan to submit an update?
We submit updates every time the dollar amounts change.
Every time it changes. Okay, that's great. Okay, so it looks like we have schedules and we can proceed.
Good morning, or good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and council committee members. My name is Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. I can walk you through the changes to the facilities capital improvement plan. Within the packet, I believe it is the first plan that is presented is the airport capital improvement plan. I'm going to skip, with your permission, to the facilities capital improvement plan changes for 2019, which immediately follow the airport plan. So the changes that take place in the 2019 Facilities Capital Improvement Plan can be characterized in a couple different ways. As Director Keenan stated, we did submit the 2018 through 22 Facilities Capital Improvement Plan with the budget guidance back in the fall 2017. And then through that course of time, we execute the 2018 program. There are updates, deferments, also inserts into that program as the year of 2018 go on. And Chairman, to your question, yes, we provide, every time there's a new project or a significant change in the dollar amounts, we provide that update to OBM, who provides it to you when there are appropriation requests. The changes that you'll see in 2019 can be classified in a couple different ways. Specifically, there were deferments from the 2018 plan that have been inserted into the 2019 program. We have had condition-based inserts, meaning worsening conditions that we've had to insert into the 2019 program that were previously unplanned or unanticipated. And then we have also had deferments from the 2019 plan that was approved in the budget to out years to accommodate for the former two things that I had just mentioned. Specific changes in the plan, we deferred 3 projects into the 2019 program from 2018, and that was the Courthouse Square elevator modernization, one of the elevators that is most significantly in need of a modernization in our inventory. A lighting retrofit in the Virgil E. Brown building. This was an opportunity because of disturbance work that we're already doing with the roof project on the 5th floor. And then modernization of the elevator systems at Jane Edna Hunter. That project we had in the 2018 program. However, it needed to be deferred because of a discrepancy with the funding source. So that is now general fund allocated in the 2019 plan. We had 5 projects that needed to be inserted into the 2019 program. Some additional funds to support the medical examiner fire alarm HVAC project that council just approved the contract to this past council session. This will be funds that are needed for the engineer of record to continue managing the project through the end of the project. Electrical distribution work at the Justice Center. An emergency fire main suppression line that had to be repaired at the Justice Center this past January. The acquisition and improvement of the Perkins lot, which is adjacent to the Chester lot that we're currently building over off of East 40th and Perkins and Chester, over by the Halley and Jade Edna Hunter buildings.
So, looking at the public facilities list which is on page 169, I'm having a hard time finding the things that you're referencing. Can you tell me how you would find these items on the schedule?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Maybe a better suggestion might be for me to just go from the top down, and I can tell you whether it was an insert or whether it was already in the program.
Okay, that would be
How about
good.
that?
And
Okay.
then you can tell us which items got deferred.
Will do.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, starting at the top, the electrical distribution repairs at the Justice Center. So we have had some ongoing analyses with our electrical systems over there, and this is preventative maintenance as well as capital repair work that needs to be done per engineering recommendations from our consultant engineer, Osborne Engineering. And this will be throughout the course of the year. We'll be performing large breaker maintenance and replacements and repairs to many components in 2 separate items of switchgear. This is needed to keep our facility safe and to keep it operating even in the short term.
And is this an insert or is this something that's been there?
This is an insert to this year. It was not previously programmed in the 2018 budget cycle. We identified this through some failures and some mission criticals that we had last year in 2018, and our follow-on engineering recommendations are to perform this work.
So this item is new?
This is new, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, the next item, small roofs on Jail 1. This was in the program at the time of budget, and there are at Jail 1 facility several roofs that are inaccessible to anywhere other than through lift capability. And so these are the roofs that we're going to be looking at for repair and/or replacement. The next project, Jail 2 elevator upgrades. This was part of the program already. We're going to be performing modernization work to the Jail 2 elevators 4 and 5. This brings food from the kitchen as well as inmate transfer throughout the Jail 2 facility. The Jail 2 motor controls, that was part of the program. This is for just ongoing rehab by our iron workers and our electricians to modernize and replace parts needed to manage the door interlocking systems that are managed by Master Control within the Jail 1 facility. Justice Center fire main emergency repair. This was an insert. This came about in January of this year. We had a suppression main off of Ontario Street start leaking, and we had to open that up and make that repair. Medical examiner accessibility upgrades, phase 1. This was part of the original program. And it provides some needed accessibility improvements to public restrooms and other public areas that our advisory committee on persons with disabilities has indicated we need to upgrade.
And why is this number revised downward from 600,000 to 400,000?
We have a phase 2 coming up, and this was just scaling to meet the overall program budget to fit in with the budget for 2019. So this is one of the projects that we scaled to fit
So you
the budget need.
deferred, it's partially deferred.
Partially, yes, sir.
Okay.
At the medical examiner, I mentioned this one already. This was an insert in funding, but the project was already approved and moving forward. This is an amount that will help us get to the end of the project with our engineer of record services to support the construction encumbrance that was just approved by council last meeting.
So this is new.
This is new.
Okay.
The courthouse square long-term facade ordinance maintenance repairs. This is accurate. This was part of the program. You'll notice the budget reduction. I tried to provide traceability to the original budgets this was back in the old 16 to 20 capital improvement plan, the 2.2 million. We were then informed by our facade ordinance inspection of the actual amounts of repairs, and so the budget now reflects the actual amount of repairs that are anticipated.
So the amount that is actually required is much less than what was originally.
That's accurate, sir.
Yeah, okay.
The courthouse square elevator upgrade, additional funding. As I mentioned previously, this was an insert. It was a deferment from the 18 program into the 19 program. This dates back to also some money that is already cashed to the project from the 2016 CIP. This is supplemental money once we got into the design to know all the conditions that elevator needs. This will allow us to execute the project. It is currently being advertised now for bid. The animal shelter, kennel, play yard drainage improvements. This project was in the original program. It provides drainage improvements to support some drainage problems that happen in the play yard back there and that impact operations of the shelter. Perkins, acquisition of upgrade of Perkins parking lot. So this is the lot adjacent to our Chester Avenue lot off of East 40th and Chester that's currently under construction. This is a currently county leased lot. Mr. Myers has presented to, I believe, Public Works Committee on this before. We will be acquiring this. There's a purchase option within the lease. The price already identified at $275,000, and then an additional $50,000 for improvements so we can reconfigure the lot. That'll bring our total ownership of what was 0 owned spots in that area to approximately 190 between the combination of the lot that's under construction and acquisition of this lot.
Is this new or insert?
This is an insert, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question about the parking lots over there. Do you have a total on how much we've spent purchasing and fixing these 2 lots?
I do, Councilman. Going off of memory, I know that the budget amount for the improvements that we're doing now is 573,000 plus 320 of that acquisition. So we're about 900,000 in the Chester lot that we're currently in construction of, both acquisition and construction. Add this additional 350, so we're at just over 1.2 million in acquisition and improvement costs forecast.
And will we be leasing any other lot space from anyone else over there?
We already have, I believe it's, I have to defer to Mr. Myers on this, but I believe it's 4 additional lots that are leased in that vicinity of the Jane Edna Hunter building. Those will continue to be leased. His strategy was to definitely have, an ownership footprint so that we have control, knowing that that's where the majority of our requirement to that union's members are to provide parking in that area.
Right, and for the information of the council here, when this project was proposed, the question of the council was concerns about parking, and we were assured by your predecessor, sir, that that would not be a problem. So what was not a problem and the council saw as a problem is now a multi-million-dollar solution to a non-problem? I don't want you to answer. I mean, it's just so frustrating to have to deal with people that can't tell the truth.
Ms. Simon?
Will this parking be for employees of the county only, or will it provide opportunities for customers of the building to access them, spots?
To the councilwoman through the chair, it's going to provide the opportunity primarily for county employees because that's what it's currently serving as a leased lot. However, we're going to reconfigure that so that we have the opportunity to provide for the Board of Elections volunteers that'll be at the back of house operations at the Halley Building, as well as visitors to the newly relocated archives.
So I thought this was by Jay and the Hunter.
Both buildings are within a 2-block
What about those
vicinity.
customers, though? I mean, that's what I'm asking, because is there a place for the public to park?
Well, we are actually, Michael Dever with Public Works again, actually with the lot, the lot that we're doing on Chester right now, that's adding, I think, a net gain of 84 spots. So a net gain of 84, so that'll be able to help with when public want to utilize the archives building. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess Councilman Gallagher is concerned more about the archives than I'm concerned about the public going to handle their health and human service issues at J. Edna. Where's the park? I mean, I didn't know there's really available parking for them.
There is some public parking on Euclid Avenue. And then there's obviously street parking around the facility down 40th Street. And it seems like that's where a majority of those people that utilize the Jane Edna Hunter building, they park there and then they walk into the facility on 40th Street on the metered spots.
So this will open up parking for those customers also, the
Yeah.
80 extra?
Yeah,
net
I think
gain?
so.
Okay.
So we're, a net gain of 84 spots, and then the improvements that we're going to do, as Matt had mentioned, the lease that we have currently at this Perkins lot, it gives us the option to purchase it. The improvements we're going to do to that lot, we may get a few extra spots out of that. And then if at the archives building, if we have room within that building to possibly do some expansion, maybe of other programs or departments into there. So there could be further use for the facility also.
Okay,
Thanks, Director.
yes.
Back on the parking lot issue, my question is with regards to the employees. They currently have to pay a monthly or fee or rate, is that correct?
So over at those facilities, I think, if I understand correctly, it was negotiated into their agreement, their bargaining agreement, that parking was to be provided. So, and Maggie may be able to correct me, but HHS covers the cost of that parking for those employees right now. So the employees, though, that are over like in the Halley building, or should I say the the archives building, those employees have to pay through their, they pay through the county through their paycheck to be able to park in that other lot. There's a small fee for that right now. We are reviewing right now the parking rates at all of the county-owned lots, and there will be coming forward in the very near future an analysis that we have done, and we're going to be recommending some adjustments for your consideration.
So is this designed to generate revenue or?
To generate revenue, it's really designed to replenish the parking fund, because if we are going to be spending in these lots to maintain them, we want to make sure that we're bringing in enough revenue to cover those expenses of maintaining those lots.
Okay, and with that in mind and having the understanding that the unions have negotiated their parking is covered, we don't anticipate trying to pass that cost along to the other employees who do not have the benefit of that agreement.
Well, that'll be a consideration coming forward.
Okay.
That obviously all of us pay to park in the lots that we're in this building here. Those people that are parked at the Justice Center or work out of the Justice Center, they're paying a fee to park in that facility from some of the lowest wage earners in the county. Yeah. So there's going to be some consideration brought forward. And once again, we've done a pretty in-depth review of all of this, and I will bring it before you, and I hope to have a long discussion about it just to show you what it looks like right now and what we should do.
All right, thank you, Director.
Is part of your goal in that going to be to try to create a more consistent system that's fair to everybody?
That is exactly it. Thank you.
Okay. Please proceed down the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is at the Virgil E. Brown Building. This is in part within the program that was proposed in the budget resolution. We changed the location of the lighting retrofit. It was proposed to be within the hallways of the Virgil E. Brown Building, but with the roof project that we've had under construction, we've had a lot of disturbance on the 5th floor, and so we're going to do that lighting retrofit on the 5th floor versus the hallways. So the project was in the program. There's a slight increase in the dollar amount requested. I believe it went from $100,000 to the $150,000. Excuse me, to the $190,000 that, it went from the $151,000 to the $190,000 that is shown, excuse me. And so we're going to be replacing those fixtures that were disturbed with LED lighting fixtures on the 5th floor. The next line item was within our 2018 program. We deferred it to 2019. It was originally proposed to be HHS funded. We did get clarification that should be a general funded project, so that was the reason why we deferred it to the 2019 program. It is now programmed for general fund dollars, and it is to modernize elevators 1, 2, and 3 in the Jane Edna Hunter building based on condition observations and recommendations for performance and reliability. The next item, Huntington
Hold
Park.
on, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr. Chair. With the modernization of the elevators in Jane and the Hunter, will they be like the ones that we have here, or is that the goal?
To the councilwoman from, via the chair, no, not necessarily, not with the digital aspects that are there, but it will significantly upgrade the features within the car, but most of this is behind the scenes. This is with the hoistways, the door sensors, the door safety mechanisms, all those things that you want to make sure you have a safe and reliable elevator. There will be some components in how the end user sees and selects, in particular accessibility, braille installation, things like that. Though that is part of a standard modernization, but not as far as this building goes with control of the elevator systems and the digital access. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next project was an insert, Huntington Park Garage East Side Elevator Cab Number 2. You'll notice that this is not a general fund impact. This will be as part of the garage maintenance fund that the director mentioned earlier. As some may know, the east side and the west side of the Huntington Park Garage have 2 elevator systems. Only one of each were modernized during the capital construction project that we finished last year. We've discovered that the use patterns to the convention center, to the Hilton, definitely justify the need to bring this other elevator back into service and to modernize it.
Okay.
I just wanted to follow up on the issues in the HPG garage that keep getting flooded and shorted out or something, and it's more than not that they're not working properly, especially at the beginning, and it's the handicap one in the back. What's going on with that? Just as recent as last 2 weeks, I got another email.
To the councilwoman through the chair, actually as early as this morning, so had another outage. What we're finding, your statement was true in that back in about a year ago is when we started having water intrusion problems into that new addition. And we went back through Turner Construction and they resolved that over the course of the summer. We completely redid the drainage surrounding that new addition of that elevator. And that is no longer a problem with the water intrusion. However, we're finding that with the amount of traffic and the amount of carts that are going through there for files and things like that, not just handicap accessibility, that those doors are taking a beating. And so and it's a particularly sensitive, the sensors in there are particularly sensitive, we're finding. So it is causing a lot of trouble calls just to reset or replace some minor sensors. We are installing some, without impacting the accessibility features of that new elevator, some bumpers, so to speak, so that we can preserve and not further damage those doors. We think that'll help, but it is something we continue to monitor with our Schindler elevator contract, and we'll continue to look for opportunities to make that a more reliable system.
I just want to follow up because that's the only place for handicap accessible entrance to the in and out of that courthouse. And when it's down, I'm not sure if what I'm hearing is we need to fix it and not just, I know it's ongoing, but I just am perplexed that this continues. Do you see an end to this with these bumpers or?
We had a meeting as recently as last month to scope out these exact changes, and I'm hopeful that that will result in the changes needed.
Is Turner, we're covering that through this capital improvement, or is this going to be another third party reimbursing us for the faulty? Well, I don't think this necessarily was faulty, but who's paying for this?
Through the warranty period that ran through, or I believe it was early March, ThyssenKrupp did cover these service calls. Right now, they're being handled through our elevator services contract with Schindler Elevator. So that they are monitored. So essentially, we are paying for those now because we are out of the warranty. Director?
Just wanted to add to it also, we ended up leaving up the handicap ramp on the west side of the facility. And, we're fortunate enough to have it available, and we're planning on leaving it there into the foreseeable future. Not the intent that it's going to be, that the ADA elevator is going to be breaking down, but it's actually it's been helpful to our crews and to others, bringing certain things into the old courthouse. And so our intent is to leave that aluminum frame up.
Yeah, I'm glad, but what happens, like, if it goes out at 10 a.m. and all the people are going in the back for handicap access and no one is manning the security at that side door, then it's kind of useless. We have to get somebody over there to do it. It just needs to be coordinated better. And I know you're working on it, but it just seems to be not resolving, but hopefully it will. I'm concerned about ADA and this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And did Turner pay for the flooding issues early on after the installation?
It came out of the project contingency, yes.
Okay.
Their
Thanks.
contingency.
Their
yes.
contingency. Thanks.
One additional comment, Councilwoman, to your point, it's not a desirable situation to have a brand new elevator and then having recurring maintenance problems. We're working to resolve them. So that is our active commitment. Absolutely. Moving on to the next line item, we entered ones that are countywide. These are generally some of our consultant-based contracts, but the first one is our fire damper inspection repair contract. We have some 2,900 fire dampers throughout the county that are being maintained by a maintenance contract. We're in year 3 of that contract, so this will execute the option for that third year, and then we'll go out on an RFP for the future into the 2020 plan. So we have factored in not only the contract costs, but also the contingency that the county carries if we need to do any repairs that were unanticipated during the inspection. This is primarily an inspection contract. And while the inspection contract does have some capability to do the repairs, we have been maintaining some contingency outside of that if our trades need to get involved or if we need to give notice to proceed to another vendor to make repairs. We've analyzed what the project has on hand against what the year 3 of the contract will cost, and that resulted in the reduction.
And just so proper credit is given, just let it be known that this is the Michael Gallagher fire damper contract. We didn't have this at all until you got involved in it, so
Right.
we recognized that work.
It's a
Okay.
critical piece of infrastructure for co-compliance, so it's definitely one that has been successful since it's been in place. The next project down there after the fire dampers, carpet contract, we put out a carpet services contract every couple of years. Our next one will be up in November of this year, so we'll be seeking a request for proposal for carpet services. This is managed, the priorities are managed through our Public Works Maintenance Administrator, and then we execute the minor amount of work in various areas of need throughout the county.
And why is this one lowered from 500,000 to 200,000?
We just did an amendment at the end of 2018, so we analyzed our budget needs and the project needs going into this year and believe that that's appropriate for this particular budget cycle.
Okay.
Budget year, rather. The next 3 are consultant type contracts, ones that we will go out on request for proposals for. All of these kinds of contracts help us execute the capital improvement program. Construction management and testing helps us do those specialized testing during construction that we can't put on the construction contractor, that have to be third party, or if we need owner's representation or project management services to help us execute a project. And then the architecture and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer contracts, those are all our designer of record contracts that we provide task orders to one of these firms. They design our projects, we go to permit, and then we go out to bid on for the construction, or we have our county trades construct, depending on the project.
And are the reductions again a result of analysis of what's currently needed?
They are, Mr. Chairman, a little bit of both. We did get some very generous contracts in place at the end of mid-2018. This reflects that and also tries to fit us in with our budget number for the year. Our last line item, just to spend a couple minutes on, the special project emergency and time-sensitive work. This is typical of any budget year that you have seen. We have this line item to account for some emergencies. We already have 2 emergencies that we will that you'll see in future updates as attached to this. One of them, Mr. Chairman, is one that you heard in the Board of Control this morning, and that was for the washers replacement for the jail. We're replacing the laundry washers there, as well as we had a sanitary line crack in the vertical riser of the Jail 1, and we had that repaired last weekend through our construction trades. So those 2 items we will present the charges through in addition to the special, this particular line item, the special project emergency time-sensitive line item.
So will those 2 items be part of this, or will they be separate money?
When we provide updates to OBM, to Director Keenan's capital team, we provide a new line item, and that'll come forward with the appropriation request. Or it gets updated at the time of the appropriation request.
So is the overall dollar amount the same on this
So
Public Works capital budget?
We had over-programmed in the budget cycle for 2019, so this brings it down to within that budget number that we received from OBM.
So it's the same as what was originally budgeted in the last biennial budget, is that correct?
I had programming in excess of this, mainly for our method to reflect priorities and that we could get going on design. So this is lower than what I had originally, am I making that clear? We had over-programmed to be able to allow for executions that if we needed to replace projects, we could. If we need to defer projects, we have projects ready to go that can still make up for that budget amount. But this brings it in to within the current year limitation.
Maggie Keenan, I just want to clarify that the original CIP budget was $7.2 million for facilities. It came down to 6.8 when the decision was made that we're not subsidizing the planning commission with road and bridge dollars. We're using general fund dollars. So as not to draw on general fund reserves, the CIP allocation was reduced.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if there's no further questions on facilities, I'll turn it over to the county engineer, but I'm happy to
Okay.
answer any other facilities questions that
Okay.
that there may be.
I think we've asked them as we've gone along. Thank you. Ms. Baker?
Thank you. And I'm, new in reading these. I guess my general question would be, the original project cost was 9.8 million, and the updated as of 3/18 is 6.8. And I realize a lot of that is the 1.7 million difference in the long-term repair, right? So I guess I would just ask generally, it seems pretty far apart between what it is that the project cost and then the original and then the revised of over 2 million. And then that also includes new inserts that are put in there that also added more costs. Why is that such a big difference?
Sure. Through the chair to the councilwoman, a couple different aspects. One, you hit on just, we know more about each of these projects from the early planning stages, that this may be reflected in some of these projects were envisioned in 2016 for this capital year. And so 3 years worth of planning and effort, you know a lot more about what the actual requirements of the project are. You never want to be in full design mode 3 years before, you'd just be wasting your design, I think. But so that's one aspect. The other aspect is obviously we want to make sure that our program matches budget, and so we appropriately adjust scope if we can to fit budget. But most notably, what I have tried to do here since coming on board in 2016, that capital plan that was in place at that time, I wanted to keep that column fixed so that there was never any loss of what the historical initial line in the sand was before we get to the execution of the project. So some of these I can't answer why they were as high or low as they were, but we're just trying to maintain some transparency of where the project started, how it's matured, and how the scope is developed until we get to the final execution total.
I guess, if I may, my concern is that when we're 50% over, and in some cases quite a bit over, and say we get closer to the number as we continue our original project cost, we won't have that wiggle room to fill in some of the inserts that you've mentioned. I guess I'm just wondering, how do we balance all that when we are, in some cases, pretty far apart from what the original project cost was and what we are now looking at? And then we're putting other things in there that were never talked about to begin with that we can now afford. It just seems like we're overestimating, and perhaps in some cases.
So we historically were overestimating, and I just want to reiterate what Matt's saying, that these are the original estimates. We have never changed them, even though we know the project estimates have changed, because we do want to have a very clear kind of audit trail of where we've headed. The CIP, particularly for facilities, has been a work in progress over the last several years. This never came to council before. It was not as tightly managed as it is now, and I can offline talk about some issues that we've had with that, but it's important that we focus on the CIP as much as we do the operating budget, because it's all dollars. But I do want to give credit when it's due, that we have not had the issue with overestimates since Matt's been here. He's done a really great job of looking at all these projects again. The cost estimates change all the time, of course, because as they get in there and they see what needs to be done. But the swings that we've experienced over the last 2 years have been nominal at best. We're not seeing 50% swings anymore. So for the most part, your concerns, I think, are no longer issues, because he has done a very good job of better estimating the projects and being more realistic with the understanding that if something blows up, literally or figuratively, but then we can figure it out as it comes, but we don't need to always expect the worst when it comes to budgeting.
Right, thank you, and that's exactly where I was going. I appreciate it. Thank you, Matt, for your work then.
Thanks, Director. Thanks.
And can you tell us what items got deferred out of 2019 to a future year?
I can, Mr. Chairman. There was a project in the 2019 program for Justice Center signage. This was based on the 2014 Facilities Condition Assessment of the Justice Center. I believe that is one, in my professional opinion, we can defer until we know more about the way ahead on the Justice Center, as opposed to the ones that I've incorporated into the program, which I believe need to be done regardless of the decision going forward on the Justice Center. Keying upgrades at the Justice Center was another project that was deferred.
What kind of upgrades?
Keying upgrades, key system,
Oh,
lock system, significantly expensive project. I'm not sure that the return on investment would be there, so we have deferred that for the time being. Air handling unit replacements for the Justice Center. We have not studied that project well enough to know if we were on base on our estimate or ready to execute the project. So for that reason, readiness of the project, we have deferred that to an out year.
What kind of replacements?
Air handling units, mechanical ventilation system. Components of the ventilation system at the Justice Center. Some flooring upgrades at the animal shelter. We had the chance to do that using other funding sources, so we've essentially accomplished that for the shelter already. Library upgrades at the old courthouse. Again, just trying to stack those up against the safety and condition-based priorities that are presented here today. A unisex restroom upgrade, accessibility upgrade at the old courthouse. An elevator upgrade at the Metzenbaum building, which we will still perform just in a later year. And then some exterior building envelope repairs at the Metzenbaum building. All of those, with the exception of the animal shelter flooring, are reflected in future years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Dave Marquardt, the Department of Public Works. I'd like to move to the vehicle replacement sections of the proposed budget. There's 3 pages in your packet just after the first section that Matt went over. The first page is the 2019 vehicle replacement budget for facilities. Out of that sheet, the majority of the replacements of vehicles are high mileage equipment that needs to be replaced. Generally, what we do is if it's no longer capable of putting on the high miles and supporting the facilities group, they'll be moved if there are other county departments that need a vehicle for less mileage, but just need a vehicle for periodic use. Those vehicles will be moved to those departments. The only exception in this listing is the very first line item, which is transfer of road bridge vehicles from prior years. What's being done in that section, it shows the fair market value of several vehicles. What is happening there is that they're vehicles that we can no longer use, so they're getting transferred to weights and measures. The one vehicle's going to weights and measures, that's a Ford F-150. There's a 2006 Ford F-450 going to the trades, a Chevy S-Ton S-15 going to the trades as well. And then the last vehicle is a Ford Escape Hybrid that will be going to the HR safety coordinator, Jay Medlock. This is really done mostly for the purposes of when you transfer a vehicle out of one department going to the other. There's an accounting that needs to be tracked, and for auditing purposes, it's really what we're tracking is where these vehicles go, and making sure that that there's a good audit trail.
And are these items changed from the prior version?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. This is what the needs are for the 2019 budget. That's what I've got in front of me right now.
Yes, Councilman Sean.
When we're talking about transferring vehicles that are almost soon to be 20 years old,
Yes.
does the maintenance cost, it just seems like it ought to be exceeding the value proposition of keeping a vehicle even in the fleet.
Yeah, and as with any of these others, where they're being transferred, they're usually going to a department that doesn't have a high need for a vehicle, but has to have one accessible. So they're not putting a lot of miles on it. When we're moving it out of facilities, out of road and bridge, there's a need to have dependable vehicles because we do put a lot of miles on them there. So we're purchasing replacements, then they go to someone who doesn't use the vehicle as much.
It just seems to me as though when you're talking about a vehicle that's right on the edge of being 20 years old, that you're going to be saddling another department with an obligation to fix, brakes and systems and things like that just fail with a 20-year-old vehicle. And are we actually creating more of a problem for those departments, even though they only have a limited usage of it?
So we do
Somebody doing that
actually- we do
cost
an
benefit analysis?
assessment of it before. We're not going to move something over to another department that's going to be a piece of junk, and we're going to have to keep putting money into it. If there's still value to the vehicle and we think it's reliable, it goes through an assessment of our mechanic, our lead mechanic, and then if they think you can get another year, 2 years out of it without putting substantial or money into the thing, you try and maximize it.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Chair,
Yes,
I may ask, or are they going to continue?
you may ask a question.
Thank you. Are all of these, except for the CAT pump, are all of these replacement vehicles?
Yes. The only exception would be that first item that I discussed. And the last item would be in the 2019 vehicle replacement for sanitary. And that last item is a pump that was necessary for emergency response. For 2 of the pump stations, we actually had no way of maintaining the flow without getting a pump that could pump against additional conditions.
Right, I was going to ask you, why now would we need a pump like that we never had before? And I guess you just explained.
We were at risk before.
Wow,
And luckily, the pumps didn't fail, but as they age, we have to make sure that we're protected against any emergencies where both pumps would be out of service.
is this one pump enough to satisfy your?
Yes, what they do is, generally speaking, if we have an emergency, it's usually just in one pump station. So they would drive the pump out, it's on a trailer, they set it up. Very quickly do connectors to get it connected, and then they'll start pumping while then they can go back and work on the pumps.
Wow. Okay, interesting, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anything to be presented about the airport improvements?
So, Lori, come on up. I believe you have a copy of the road and bridge. There is really no substantial changes to the road and bridge capital plan. And then we have a few items in regards to the airport also. So Eddie, if you want to step in. State your name.
Ed Premen. Mr. Chairman, we have a few items for the airport CIP. The first item is the apron repair and replacement project. It's currently in the planning stages. It's 90% designed, estimated project cost of $7.3 million. It'll be reimbursed by the FAA at 90%. We're estimating that approximately $100,000 will be expended in 2019. Next item is a general airport services contract. Our current contract expires August 31st of 2019. Estimated cost of the contract is $450,000 over 3 years. And once the expenses of this contract are tied to an FAA project, 90% will be reimbursed by the FAA.
So are these the same as what was in the budget before, or are they or is there a change reflected here?
Currently, these are the same,
Okay.
other
so-
than an item at the end that I'll talk about at the bottom.
So why don't you just go, why don't you just go over the changes?
Well, basically, this is Lori Gershbach-Tober from Public Works. This is the first year that we have had an airport budget. It's always been on our facility, and we've had that $40 million project that we've been working out there, the FAA. So we have not done a lot, and now that that is completed, we have started our new capital plan, which is a 10-year capital plan that we have with the FAA for what we plan to do, and now we're bringing these items in so that we can move forward. But at this point, we have not before. So technically, we've not had a budget up to this point that we have presented.
It's a
So in-
separate CIP for the airport,
So
as
in one
opposed to when it was
sense,
included.
so in one sense, all of this is new.
Correct.
Okay. Please continue then.
Okay, item number 3, wildlife control. We're awaiting a USDA report that'll recommend if we have to do anything to take care of any wildlife that is interfering on the runway. Estimated cost of $250,000, however, we have no idea what the report's going to say, so we just threw in an estimate. That report should be
Shortly.
in within the next month.
And we've also, based on this, one of the comments that they had said was the wetlands that we have out there was to put a second fence in, which would, help to protect and hopefully keep the animals off and keep them in their own. But that's only why we did this, until we get the report. And this report, because we went through them, we don't have to pay for it, but it will be FAA reimbursable because we use the OD or the USDA for it.
Okay, next item is the utility pole removal and/or adjustments along Richmond Road. Estimated cost $125,000, and it'll be 100% reimbursable from ODOT, and this is an ODOT requirement. This should be completed within the next 2 to 3 months. Next item is the existing general airport services contract. Lori, you can go into a little more detail with that one.
This is our existing contract who we have with a consultant right now, and this person was brought on to run the big $40 million grant that we just got. So they've done the design of 1, 2, 3 phases. They've done other little things that have come up, but now they're expiring in at the end of August, and that's why we have to go out. None of us have the expertise, and we do need a general service person out there who's got airport, because they help us fill out the forms and everything, help us do the grants. So that's what, this is just the end of their contract now that will be closing up.
And why is the original amount 4.2 million and the revised amount is 387,000?
4.2 is what the total contract was. 387 was what the amount that was not officially or not put into funding up front. So we were asked to show it on here that the 387, that would need to be funded this year.
Okay.
But
It was originally a 5-year contract that initiated, in 2013?
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, too, we've been getting reimbursable the 4.2 at 90%. So that's been used there, so we don't have to impact the general fund for what's
And
left.
so the 387,000 is reimbursed at,
Not quite all of that, there will be, we've got, because we have projects right now, like they're designing the apron. When that project becomes an FAA project and we can apply for that grant, then we will get reimbursed the percentage that they put in to design that for us,
Typically 90%.
90%. And there will be a chance we may get that additional 5% based on what ODOT Aviation decides every year.
okay.
That would have the net effect of a 5% general fund impact.
Okay.
Next item, land demolition and improvement. It's a completed project, 100% general fund at $72,000. The next three items are the runway improvement projects that have been completed out at the airport. The Phase 1, Phase 2, and the airport EMAS. No general fund impact in 2019. The last item is the airport Phase 3 and 4. There's a change order that'll be processed, estimated cost $475,000, 100% general fund, no FAA reimbursement due to some delays in the project, as well as having to accelerate the project to have the project completed and the runway open for the tenants. There was also a delay in permitting that caused that change order. Total net effect, 2019 general fund, $747,000 with a potential reimbursement of $180,000, which would net out to a total general fund impact of $567,000 for fiscal 2019. The major change on this is that last item that involved the change order with Great Lakes Construction.
Just so you know, these grants could move out a year or so. Right now, we've been told there's a possibility of getting them now, but until FAA decides how much they have left in the budget, we won't know, or they, like this first one, may be done in phases again, like the original construction was. So we're sitting, waiting to see what happens down the road.
Okay, thank you. Director, is there any reason why this would need to be passed on second reading suspension? Or
No, I don't believe so. If you'd like to go the full 3 readings, I don't think there's any objections to that.
Okay,
Chair, I have a question.
yes,
Yes?
please proceed.
May I ask a question on the Road and Bridge Fund?
Sure,
We increased the licensing fees
that's correct.
for that. Can
That's
you
right.
account for what local impact there was because of that increase?
So in regards to the additional dollars for the,
Nicole English with Public Works. So we increased the existing programs. So if you see, like the 50/50 program in the out years went up $1 million. The pavement maintenance, I think, went up $500,000. So we just took our current programs and increased them starting in 19.
Did you find that you were able to take care of more roads that were perhaps under the line? That
Definitely.
because of the increase, you were able to bump them up to a higher level?
Yeah, so recently we passed legislation through county council for the new 50/50 projects. And even though we had already selected 19 projects, we went out for a Part B of 2019 where we funded an additional 8 projects in 19 and the 20 projects. So we definitely pumped that money right back to the cities on that front. And the same with the pavement maintenance. When we made the awards around December, January this year, we had increased that amount. So we already were pushing that money out to the locals.
And these are new projects, not
Correct.
enhancing or choosing larger projects. These are projects that have been sitting and couldn't be funded that you now are able to fund?
Or that cities had submitted. We put a letter out saying now that we have increased dollars, we are going to solicit another round of 19 50/50 projects and some of 20. So it could be projects that people had already submitted to us about, a year and a half ago for 18 and 19 and didn't get them. Or it could have been something new that the city now, thought was important to them. But yes, new, not something on our plan that we just gave more money to.
Those projects came forward just not
Maybe
too
about a
long
month
ago.
ago.
Yeah, in the Public Works Committee, they were discussed, the 2020 projects.
And those were due to the increase of the
Correct.
licensing fees.
Yeah, and we explained that even to the cities in our letter, the request was due to the increased money from the license fees that had been passed. We now are increasing these programs.
Okay, and is that only the 50/50, or is it
No,
generally?
we put more money in, I can get you the comparison, because we have a new PowerPoint that we've been taking out that shows the new numbers. But we put it in the 50/50, we put it in preventative maintenance, we upped our operations resurfacing projects, we put a little bit more in the bridge program. So we somewhat spread it out among the programs, but we just used our existing programs and enhanced them.
Good, I'm glad to know that, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, does someone have a motion to refer this legislation for second reading?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded to refer Resolution 2019-0112 to the full council for second reading, probably a more extensive discussion than we're going to see during the budget process, because of the press of time. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it, and the resolution is referred. Thank you. Any other miscellaneous business? Hearing none, nothing further commands our attention. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.